This is 12 News Now. I'm Paige Messier. 911 services are down in Massachusetts, according to state officials. A public service alert was sent out around 2:30 Tuesday afternoon. People in Massachusetts are urged to contact their local departments directly in an emergency situation. We have reached out to the Massachusetts State 911 Department, but have not yet heard back. We'll keep you updated both on air and online.
Thank you so much for being here. We are never a dull moment, and we just wanted to start actually with a notification that currently the statewide 911 system is down and calls are not going through. We've been in touch with the state and with all the relevant officials to work on getting this resolved.
Welcome everyone to the Wake Up Call channel. This is the new normal. 20 years ago, you would never ever hear anything like this. You would never hear that 911 was down statewide. But ever since we started seeing movies like The Purge and Leave the World Behind, we've been seeing stories like this out in the open. It's becoming more normal, almost like they know ahead of time what they're going to do to all of us, right? And what better way to cause chaos than to have 911 shut off so that people who are in an emergency, let's just say during something like a heat dome, or as they like to call it, a heat dome, just a normal heat wave, well, nobody will be able to contact emergency services, right? How convenient, because a few months ago, I covered this same exact story. Major 911 outages in 4 states left millions of people without a way to contact local authorities. And this is the type of stuff that they do to condition you into a future of AI governance. Because remember, you're not going to have 911 in the future. You're not going to have humans available to help you in the future. But for now, of course, as this government continues to create chaos, which is their motto, order out of chaos around us, they can tell us that there's things like heat waves going on, and they can tell us there's things like cybersecurity threats, and then they could just shut off power grids, and they could shut off the ability to call 911. But what's ironic about all this stuff is we've seen it before in movies, plot of movies, many times. But 50 years ago, if I told you that you were trying to call the police because of an emergency, people would say it's absolutely insane that you wouldn't be able to reach the police. But now it's becoming normal. So the story today, as this heat wave is occurring, they haven't given us their fictional explanation yet, but 911 is down in the entire state of Massachusetts. The entire state, not a town, okay? This isn't me covering, well, a little town, somebody drove into a telephone pole, and then we can look and we could say, well, maybe the person hit the telephone pole or hit the power supply and then everybody lost power, and okay, it's a reasonable explanation. But they don't have a reasonable explanation because they never have one. They didn't give us a reasonable explanation when in 4 different states 911 was down a few months ago. Nobody was like, wait, why would it be down in Nevada and then be down all the way in another state that's nowhere near Nevada? This sounds a little suspicious. We had South Dakota all the way to Texas to Nevada. We had 911 outages. How is that all connected to each other? Well, they just told you it's temporarily down. We don't know why. But there's a chance that the boogeyman could be out there playing with the 911 electrical grid and everything else. So we got to be fearful of that. But if you don't remember, let me just show you the theme of so many of these films, which are very popular films that many people have seen because predictive programming is a conditioning mechanism. They show you this stuff ahead of time and desensitize you so that when it does really happen, they want you to think it's all conspiracy theory. Like people like me, we're just yelling about it, but that this really suddenly occurs in our society. Like this is a new normal thing that we're supposed to accept. And you might remember during these films, police, fire, emergency medical services were unavailable, right? Like in The Purge or in Leave the World Behind. Look.
Police Police, fire, and emergency medical services will be unavailable. Police, fire, and emergency medical services will be unavailable. Police, fire, and emergency medical services will be unavailable.
We are seeing ongoing cyber attacks across the country.
What just happened here is happening everywhere. We need to get to that bunker Danny told us about, and we need to get there now. You know something? I had a sneaking suspicion, but I wanted more information first. All the signs were there, sure, but I didn't want to scare anyone. Call me crazy because it is crazy. It would have made more sense if we were on the brink of an all-out invasion. I didn't think we'd actually let something like this happen. I thought we were smarter than that. My primary client works in the defense sector. I spent a lot of time cost-benefit analysis of military campaigns. There was one program in particular that terrified my client the most. A simple 3-stage maneuver that could topple a country's government from within. The first stage was isolation. Disable their communication and transportation. Make the target as deaf, dumb, and paralyzed as possible. For the second stage, synchronized chaos. Terrorize them with covert attacks and misinformation. Overwhelming their defense capabilities, leaving their weapon systems vulnerable to extremists in their own military. Without a clear enemy or motive, people would start turning on each other. The third stage would happen on its own. What's the third stage? A coup d'etat. Civil war. Collapse. This program was considered the most cost-effective way to destabilize a country. Because if the target nation was dysfunctional enough, it would, in essence, do the work for you. Whoever started this wants us to finish it.
Wait now. All the roads are blocked. I have no idea what I'm supposed to do right now. I can barely do anything without my cell phone and my GPS. I am a useless man.
So they are doing this obviously more and more now, right? So here's the story. The 911 system is down statewide in Massachusetts. The state 911 department has confirmed there's a disruption to the service and the cause is being investigated. Individuals who are experiencing an emergency are asked to contact the direct line for their local police department. We will provide further information as soon as it becomes available. An emergency alert sent to phones on Tuesday afternoon said 911 services are currently down statewide. Delays in public safety response may occur. Call local public safety business line directly if you or others are having an emergency. So what's the excuse going to be? Right? Did a plane crash into the power grid in Massachusetts, or are we supposed to believe that it's so hot out because it hit 90 degrees? Wow. I mean, that's insane. That's so crazy to think that it hit 90 degrees, that it's so hot people could croak, right? Remember, a couple years ago, people used to go on vacation to places like Hawaii before, of course, they lit it on fire, or Aruba, or the Caribbean. They'd go places where it was 100 degrees. They would seek 100-degree weather so that they could go there, lay out, get a tan, go in the water, have some drinks or have some good food. That's what people used to do in a normal world. 100 degrees was like, whoa, it's going to be 100. I can't wait to go outside and play in the sprinklers or go in my pool or go down the shore. Well, today, of course, in this world order, when you hear that it's 100 degrees, you're supposed to hide. You're supposed to be fearful. And on top of all that, your government gets a free out to shut off emergency services and then tell you that it's a huge coincidence that it's so hot that a whole state just doesn't have 911 available right now, right? So this leads to what? This leads to more of the government coming in, of course, using things like this that they create to cause chaos. Using things like this not only to cause problems in people's day-to-day lives and fear in their day-to-day lives, but new infrastructure. Because remember, when I talk about new infrastructure, it means everything. Everything. Nothing remains the same. Have you noticed over the years that people actually text 911? Did you miss that wave where they were starting to tell people, hey, you know what? We're so clogged with so many calls at 911. Why don't you just text our automated system and we'll send an ambulance to your house? Well, the future is, guess what? It'll all be automated. You'll have a driverless ambulance. And of course, this stuff sounds out of the realm of possibility for most people because some people literally could be living with Michael Myers and they wouldn't even see a murder coming. Michael Myers could be living in their guest room, wearing the mask, walking around the house, not speaking like Michael Myers does in the Halloween films. And some of these people are so blind that they would give him the benefit of the doubt. They'd be like, he's not as bad as people say. He's not bothering everybody. Look, he's up in his room all night. I don't know what he's doing, but come on, to think that he's a murderer. Because people out there are so naive and so dumbed down, and this mind control has worked so well on most of these sheeple. They actually look at people like you and me as enemies of the state. We're the threats to society because we think that things like this are not normal, because people can't seem to remember what they did yesterday. So it's very hard for them to remember how, 10 years ago, your government wasn't meddling to the degree they are now in our day-to-day lives. They think this is normal. For every day, for there to be stories of cyber attacks, power outages, 911 not working, trains derailing and dumping chemicals all over the place, the fear of the common cough, how you should lose your job if you won't inject yourself with poison, or if you speak out against the poison, you should lose the right to free speech on the internet. In fact, you should be thrown in prison in some places. And of course, if you question a certain group of people, well, that's a hate crime. All this has happened over the last decade. People just don't remember. They think that this is the new normal. So stories like this, when you hear it, especially if you're young and you're a teenager, like, what's the big deal? 911 is down, right? Why? Because the odds are you're probably, hopefully for your sake, not going to need to call 911 today. Okay, well, just imagine your grandma needs to call 911. Or just imagine, we need to just look at this entire situation as an opportunity to be free from them. So when they shut the grid off, which they will do, when they shut emergency services off like they're doing here and watching how people react to it, we need to look at it as an opportunity for people to get off technology, to get together and be able to solve these problems on their own. That's the one thing they don't want to come out of situations like this where they shut emergency services off. They want you to be screaming and nervous that something might happen to you and you need Big Brother to come in and send the ambulance. But what civilians should do, especially during a grid shutdown, is people should look around and say, you know what? We don't need them anymore. They're the ones who've not only caused this, they're the ones who have caused so much stress and anxiety and depression in everybody's lives. Let's shut them off completely. Let's start being self-dependent. Let's all start learning trades and living the way people used to live. Then we don't have to worry about the government shutting off 911, because then we have doctors in every town. We have EMT volunteers who don't need to go directly through emergency services. And then maybe we could just start separating ourselves from these people, because if we don't, they're just going to continue to do things like this to meddle in your life and psychologically, of course, cause not just damage to people, dependence. Because when people hear this stuff, whatever they come in with next and say, hey, we got to make sure we don't, we can't go offline again. We have to make sure 911 doesn't go down again, because that's what's going to come out of this. That's what comes out of these stories you hear month after month now with 911 going down. This is a repetitive story, right? Always look for patterns. Okay, here's a pattern. 911 has been going down a lot. It's never gone down before. It might have gone down in your town, like I said, if somebody drove into a telephone pole. But on a national level, 911 wasn't going out statewide, right? So we can see a pattern here, okay? And they're watching the pattern to see how people react to the pattern. But more specifically, they're going to come in and they're going to tell you that we need something new. We need new infrastructure. We need a new way for emergency services, for you to be able to get in touch with emergency services. And believe it or not, eventually this is all inside your body, right? Remember the whole she's fallen and she can't get up? Ever see that? The old lady falls down, presses the panic button so 911 gets called because she fell on the floor. If you haven't seen it, you could look for it. It's an old video. They used to literally sell this to old people. If you fell out of your chair and no one was around, you had a little button that would call 911. Okay, do you see where I'm going with this for the future? With technology, where everything is online all the time? Because you're going to be online all the time. You ever walk in front of a Bluetooth, something connected to Bluetooth? No, if you haven't, try it, okay? Try putting your iPod, connecting it to a Bluetooth speaker, and put stuff in front of it. Start waving metal poles in front of it. You walk in front of it. Your connection goes in and out, okay? The connection goes in and out, unless, of course, you're magnetized, which many people are, so they're pretty much Bluetooths in themselves. But if you put stuff in front of the object, it causes blockage between that connection, okay? They want to remove that blockage. And the only way they're going to be able to remove that blockage is if people have nanotechnology inside their body and everything's connected that way. Then you won't worry about 911 going offline. The only thing you'll have to worry about then is, of course, whether or not you've been hacked by the government. But of course, even though all of these rich people who tell everybody out there that we should all live in poverty, that we all need to watch our carbon footprint, they're all rich billionaires. They all go meet together, tell us what's in our best interest, even though they don't live that way. They're the ones telling us openly every time they meet at the World Economic Forum, at the Bilderberg meeting, at the G7 summit. They come out and they say what? They say, well, if humans are hacked, you can hack humans. They're useless eaters. They're going to be not even worth anything in the future very, very soon because AI is more important and more dominant. So we're going to have the ability, and we do have the ability to hack humans. They're hackable animals. Those are all quotes from themselves, calling us hackable animals. Yet everybody still looks at one another. All of us peasants, we all look at each other, right? Not me specifically, but everybody out there who doesn't listen to this channel looks at each other and points a finger at each other based on what they do at the polls, who they vote for. Ooh, do they have a Ukraine flag up in there? That's how dumb these hackable animals have become. And these people are going to be able to push this stuff forward and get away with stuff like this out in the open. No one's going to even blink. No one's going to blink when they see this about 911. People in the state will, because they're like, oh my gosh, I hope something doesn't happen to me today, or my neighbor, oh, it's hot outside. But most people out there are so dumbed down and so desensitized. These stories that come out every day, they think that this is normal. They don't even think for a second how that's even possible for an entire state to be offline, to have 911 offline. They don't. They don't. And the government knows this. So we'll see what stories come out. Are they going to give us another cyber attack? Are they going to tell us that a boogeyman in Russia was so bored today that he was looking at a map of America and he's like, I hate the Boston Red Sox. He's like, the Boston Celtics just won the fake basketball thing. All right, let's shut down their 911 services today. See how they like that. I lost some money on the game. What do you think the motive is, right? Is that the story they'll tell us? Or are they going to tell us because it's so hot? Because it's in the 90s? Because it's never been in the 90s. Only in the 90s every single summer in Massachusetts. But are they going to tell us that it's too hot? That suddenly 911's not working, just like when they tell us there's not enough 911 operators, or they conveniently tell us, oh, there's not enough police anymore. Police forces can't send the police in the middle of the night. All these stories that they tell you, which are all done by design so they can come in with the solution as we head towards our AI governance. It's unbelievable. I mean, it really is. Look to the patterns. These are not normal situations. All of these wildfires, not normal. New Mexico now on fire, California again, Lahaina, not normal, okay? They're getting away with this stuff because they could literally put climate change or any of these heat waves on top of any story and convince people out there that's why. That's how easy it is for them now. They don't even need an explanation, but they can watch how you respond, and then eventually they can come in with the solution to make sure that 911's never offline again. But the real thing people should be doing is going, you know what? I'm watching the behavior of the Republicans, the Democrats in Congress. These people are scum bags, all of them, okay? What we should do is we should look at these people, watch their behavior, know their tree, the tree is known by its fruit, right? And we should figure out how to get independent of these people. We don't need 911. We don't need any of the stuff we pay taxes for because they're not held accountable, right? We all pay taxes. We should literally be given a document every single year. For anybody who pays tax, you should get a document that says this is what every single dollar you gave goes towards. And then you want to see it. You want to audit them. That's how a normal functioning society should work. But instead, everybody's just feared into paying the IRS, thinking that their money goes towards something, and then you're shamed if you don't pay, right? These people need to be defunded. These people need to be put in prison. And people need to wake up to their nonsense, like these 911 outages that we're seeing over and over and over again. At the same time, all these movies come out that they're preparing you for with their grid shutdown, which is coming. Okay, it is coming. Where they're telling you, hey, oh my goodness, the grid is down. And then, of course, I show you the clip from Leave the World Behind because Ethan Hawke's character is the epitome of how every human being is going to respond. They don't know how to function without their phone. That's why they're going forward now. That's why. Because anytime you have a problem, any person has a problem, the majority, what do? They Google search it. They don't know how to do anything on their own. And they go, well, I don't care. I don't know how to do this, but I could just Google search it. Oh, okay, right? They go, I'll go on YouTube. I'll find a how-to. I can't figure out how to, put my windows down in my car. If something's wrong with my car, I'll just go on YouTube, right? Always the answer for them. That's what they've wanted. You to become so dependent on technology that you're useless without it. That's how they gain control over you. That's what's coming. I thank everybody for being here. Hope you're all doing well. God bless you as always and your families.